Jai Gurudev. Has everybody done their homework? Yeah, Venkat? Have you completed your homework?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Ghazal also? Mitesh? Yeah, cool. Rupa, are you up to speed?
Yes.
Good. So the homework I've given you was page 163, 164 and 165, right? You've all done that? Good. So, in these pages...
We need 164 and 165.
Yeah, 163, middle of the page is where the story began.
Yes.
Yeah, remember, no? Yeah. So basically Prahlad becomes the devotee of Lord Vishnu. Yeah, and then he starts going into the spirit of inquiry, questioning everything. So now we will see what are Prahlad's questions. That is the main story. So on page 165, the last paragraph, that's where his self-contemplation or self-inquiry began with all those questions. Yeah? Where you remember he says, I'm not the body, I'm not the sense of sight, the sense of sound, the sense of smell, yeah? All the five senses, I am beyond that. Yeah? He started his journey of self-inquiry. So now we'll go to page 166 and begin reading from there, where he goes deeper into the self-inquiry. Yeah? So, who's going to begin page 166?
So before we go into this, the whole on page 163, Vasistha is telling Rama about the context of all this is another way of enlightenment.
Correct.
Okay. I can read 166. Prahlada continued to contemplate. I now recollect the truth that I am the self which is omnipresent, in which there is no conceptualization. It is by that self that all the senses and their experiences are made possible, for it is the inner light. It is because of that inner light that these objects occur and acquire their apparent substantiality. It is thanks to that inner light of consciousness, which is utterly free from all modifications, that the sun is hot, the moon is cool, the mountain is heavy and the water is liquid. It is the cause of all the effects that manifest as this creation, but it is itself uncaused.
Yeah, so it's talking about the Brahman consciousness. It is the Brahman consciousness only that broke into Prakriti and Purusha. Yes. So, water, fire, ether, air, yeah, all this is nothing but that Brahman consciousness itself. Yeah. So, it causes everything, but Brahman itself is uncaused. Yeah. You cannot say where is the beginning of Brahman, or who gave, from where did Brahman come. Yeah. It is uncaused, it is beginningless, yeah, and it is endless. Like in a ball, if you take a ball, kids play with balls, right? You take a small ball, tell me where is the beginning of that sphere or the ball? There is no beginning, right? And there is no end. Exactly like that. Brahman is Anadi and Ananta. It is beginningless and it is endless. It is also uncaused, therefore. Okay? That's the main gist of the first paragraph. I will go ahead.
I salute this self, which is its own light, free from duality of knower and known, subject and object. In it exist all things of this universe, and into it they enter. When thought of by this consciousness, these things seem to come into being. When thought of as non-existent, they reach their end. Thus, all these infinite objects appear in this limitless space of consciousness. They appear to grow and they appear to diminish, even as a shadow seems to grow and to diminish in the light of the sun. This self or inner light of consciousness is unknown and unseen. It is attained by those who have purified their hearts, but by the holy ones it is seen in the supreme pure cosmic space of consciousness. This self exists in an undivided state in the three worlds.
Okay. So this is Prahlad's aho moment, where he says, I salute to the self. Remember in Ashtavakra Gita, Janaka's moment, he says, Namo Mahyam, I bow down to myself. So this is Prahlad's moment, where he says, I salute to this self. He says it is free from the duality of knower and known, subject and object. He's just going on describing the self. He just cannot stop himself from the awe or that amazement that he is experiencing. In it exist all things of the universe, and into it they enter. When thought of by this consciousness, these things seem to come into being. When thought of it as non-existent, they reach their end. So it is just by this first thought I that everything has come. One eye said I am fire, one eye said I am water, one eye said I am the mountain. And that's how one thought led to this entire Prakriti. Everything has come out of it, and at the end of its life cycle, everything goes back into it. So it exists only because of it, because of the self or the consciousness. Thus, all these infinite objects appear in the limitless space of consciousness. They appear to grow and they appear to diminish, even as a shadow seems to grow and to diminish in the light of the sun. You cannot say that the shadow has its own entity, correct? Depending on where the sun is, overhead or at the horizon, that determines the length, breadth, the height of the shadow. So you cannot say the shadow has its own entity or the shadow has its own length, breadth and height. It is the position of the sun that gives it its qualities. So in the same way, it is the consciousness that actually gives all the prakritis, you, me, every living and non-living object, its qualities, its gunas. It's that consciousness that actually gives us that. I'll give you an example. This is stated in the Upanishads many times. Like, the moon does not have any light of its own. You know this, right? When the sun goes to the other side of the hemisphere, it becomes dark on our side. Right now it is daytime in India. The sun is on the other side of the hemisphere, but the light of that sun is still reaching the moon, and we see that light. You know this, right? You remember this from geography class? Yeah. So basically, moon does not have its own light. Yeah? The moon is shining on account of the sun. Yeah? So recognize this thing, that everything in this world is like that moon. Yeah? And we are all shining, we are all running, there is prana in this body, there is life in this body, or there is death in the body. Everything is on account of that one sun, the Brahman consciousness. Yeah? Because of that Brahman, we shine. Because of that, we go away. Yeah? That is why the moon appears full, round, beautiful sometimes, and sometimes it is waning and just a little line in the sky, and sometimes it's gone. That's exactly what is explained here. Third paragraph, this self or inner life of consciousness is unknown and unseen. It is attained by those who have purified their heart. But by the holy ones, it is seen in the supremely pure cosmic space or dimension of consciousness. This self exists in an undivided state in the three worlds. Yeah? What does it mean? That when you reach that pure state, even while being in this body, with meditation, with complete purity, when you reach that highest state of consciousness, you can experience the self. This, it can be seen, does not mean it can be seen by the physical eye in the holy ones. It is just very poetically put that it can be experienced in your deepest meditation. And it exists undivided in the three worlds. Yeah? Three worlds as in the way you say. This mortal world, our world of physical, then the heavens and the hell. That does not mean there is really a hell where you're going to be fried in oil or cooked or whatever. It is just a state where another dimension in this realm of existence itself, but at a subtle level where there is a lot of negativity. Yeah? And heaven is nothing but positivity, more love, more joy, more compassion. Yeah? Okay. You can read ahead.
The one self, which is the soul experiencing, is therefore the experiencer in all. Hence the self is said to have 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. With this beauteous body of the sun, this self, which is I, roams the space, as also in the body of air. I am woman, I am man, I am the youth, I am the senile old man, and on account of embodiment, I am apparently born here. From the ground of the infinite consciousness, I raise trees and plants, being present in them as their very essence. Even as clay in the hands of a playful child, this world appearance is pervaded by me for my own delight.
So the self, again here very metaphorically it has been put that the self has 1,000 eyes, 1,000 arms, as in we are all the self, no? Yeah? And if you take this collective consciousness is the doer of all. Yeah? Or the self or the consciousness is that which is doing everything and experiencing everything. Yeah? So Remember when Janaka had said this? Same thing Prahlada has come to. Yes, that the one self which is the soul experiencing is therefore the experiencer in all. Hence the self is said to have 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. And it is, you go from one janma to the next, to the next, to the next, because of this I. Yeah? I am man, I am woman, I. But it is that self only that goes through all this. It is the self that got lost in Maya, forgot about its identity, its real identity, and it thought I am this. And then it took that form. It goes through many life cycles because of this Maya, because of its own ignorance. And then of course it drops the ignorance at the end and comes back to its original identity. That is what is explained in this. Even as clay in the hands of a playful child, this world appearance is pervaded by me for my own delight. As if the Lord or Brahman is speaking through Prahlada and saying this. Just like a child plays, na? It'll play, it'll make its own house, it'll make all doll and an entire village and then crush it. Didn't you play when you were a kid? Yeah. Just for fun. Yeah. Tell me a good reason why you made that little house and then broke it. Tell me, do you have a good reason? No, I was just playing, I was having fun. Yeah. It is the same thing. God loves fun. Yeah. Stop looking for a meaning. Oh, there has to be a meaning for life. Oh, there has to be a meaning why God created all of us. Yeah, you're running. It is all for fun. Enjoy. Be happy. You can read ahead.
That was too good. By the way,
Read it.
this whole appearance of the past, the present, and the future exists in the infinite consciousness without the distinction. Infinite consciousness without the distinction of the objectivity. The omnipresent, omnipotent cosmic being is the self which is indicated by the I. Prahlada continued to contemplate.
Arre?
You missed a paragraph.
You missed a paragraph.
I did?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let me go back. This world exists in me, the self or infinite consciousness, even as a reflection seems to exist in a mirror. I am the fragrance in the flower. I am the light in the radiance, and even in that light, I am the experience. Whatever mobile and immobile beings exist in this universe, I am their supreme truth or consciousness, free from conceptualizations. I am the very essence in all things in the universe. Just as butter exists in milk and liquidity exists in water, even so as the energy of consciousness, I exist in all that exists. This world appearance of the past, the present, and the future exist in the infinite consciousness without the distinction of objectivity. This omnipresent, omnipotent cosmic being is the self which is indicated by the I.
Yeah? So he goes on to describe that I am in everything. Yeah? And everything is in me. Just like Janaka went on, it's the same way Prahlada is going on. It's a pretty simple paragraph. Yeah. The last paragraph Let's look at that. This world appearance of the past, the present and the future exists in the infinite consciousness without the distinction of objectivity. This omnipresent, omnipotent cosmic being is the self which is indicated by the I. Yeah? So basically it is like space. Yeah? Can you divide space into past, present and future space? No, no. Yeah? Self is just like that. It is beyond past, present and future. Why does past, present and future exist? Because I am looking through a peephole. Yeah? There is just a range at which I can live. I cannot exist beyond this range because of this limitation of this body. Yeah? I cannot exist beyond this range, this way or that way. I am limited to this range. So I am living through a peephole. And everything that I see through the peephole right now is present. Yeah? The moment this peephole moves a little, my present keeps changing. Yeah? And that which was present before has become the past. Yeah? But actually, if you drop the peephole and look at the same space from an eagle's eye point, yeah? From an eagle's eye view, everything exists. That same presence is there. This past is also there and future is also there. Yeah? Drop this narrow existence, living through this peephole. When you drop this existence, you drop the identification with this Prakriti, this body. Yeah? Your deepest meditation, you will be able to experience there is no time. There is nothing like time. The self is that cosmic being that is beyond past, present and future. That is why it is omnipresent, present everywhere. Just like space is present in the past, in the present and in the future, the cosmic being or the self is everywhere. Yeah? And it is omnipotent. Omnipotent is doing everything. Doing everything in your past, doing everything in the present and will do everything in the future. You are not the doer. Everything is happening. And it is indicated by I, not the ego I, oh I am great. When you say, oh I am great, I am a great singer, I am a great dancer, I am a great writer, what are you really identifying with? Have you noticed? You are identifying with the quality of this body. This body is a great writer or singer or dancer, whatever. Are you seeing this? I am not this body. It is just a vehicle for these 30, 40, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever. This vehicle will drop. How can the qualities of the body be me? That which is impermanent cannot be me. So, I am that. That I is the self. Yeah? So you understood what he meant by the I here on this page. Okay, we can read page 167 now.
Prahlad continued to contemplate. Truly it was but the infinite consciousness that existed. How has this finite, limited ego sense arisen in it without any justification and support? What has given rise to the delusion which expresses itself in statements like, this I am. What is body and this is bodilessness? Who lives and who is Ektaji? Surely my ancestors were of little understanding in that they abandoned this infinite consciousness and roamed this little earth. What comparison is there between the vision of the infinite and this fearful vanity known as worldly glory, which is full of dreadful desires and cravings? This vision of the infinite consciousness is pure and is of the nature of supreme peace, and it is surely the very best among the visions that are possible in this universe. The sovereignty of the world has also all things in the three worlds exist in consciousness. Why do people not experience the truth that there is nothing outside of consciousness?
You have to remember, Prahlada is doing a self-inquiry. He's actually talking to his own self. Yeah? So he keeps saying that everything is this infinite consciousness. Then how has this finite ego arisen in it? How did that I am that come up? Yeah? This has always been the haunting question. How did that first I come up in the pool of consciousness? Yeah? It's so amazing. Yeah? So Prahlada is asking this. How did that first I come up without any justification and support? From where? Even to bring that thought I, something has to be there, no? How did it happen? Yeah? Prahlada is questioning. What has given rise to the delusion which expresses itself in statements like this is you and this is I? So this delusion, this duality, how did it come in the first place? When we are all one pool of consciousness, how did the division arise? Can you say the space in your house is separate from the space in my house? How much ever walls you build, however high walls you build, you cannot say the space inside the room is different from the space outside the room. Then how did in that Brahman consciousness this division happen? There has to be something. Who built that wall? This is Prahlad's question.
On the last page you said that God loves having fun. Why are you asking all these random questions?
It is self-inquiry. Yeah. What is... Huh? No? Okay. What is this body and what is bodilessness? Who lives and who is it that dies? Yeah, he's asking questions to himself. If I am Prahlad, in this body is called Prahlad, then what happens after this body is going to die? Yeah, this machinery is going to fail. Then what is that bodilessness? And who was living then? If I am moving on, then how did I identify with even the name Prahlad? Yeah? It's even more fun to read this in Sanskrit. It's very poetically put in Sanskrit. Surely my ancestors were of little understanding in that they abandoned this infinite consciousness and roamed this little earth. Okay? You have to understand Prahlad's ancestors are all demons. Yes? So they were all interested in what? Acquiring money, acquiring wealth. Yeah? Just creating harm and havoc to others. Demons just used to eat others up. Yeah? So he's thinking about all his ancestors. That all they did was just spread terrorism around. Yeah? They didn't even inquire into this infinite consciousness. What comparison is there between the vision of the infinite and this fearful vanity known as worldly glory? Which is full of dreadful desires and cravings. Yeah? This mind just keeps running after I want. Now remember, he's thinking about his ancestors. So his ancestors only wanted beautiful goddesses, running after the beautiful goddesses and taking them into and imprisoning them. All those kind of things his ancestors had done. If you have read these stories, it's a lot of fun to read all that, what the demons used to do. Yeah? And they used to only have fun, they used to only eat and indulge in all the five senses. So the sense pleasures are only craving, 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 and it is also finite. How could they all be interested in the finite? Yeah? Leaving the beauty of this infinite consciousness. Yeah? What comparison is there? This vision of the infinite consciousness is pure and is of the nature of supreme peace, and it is surely the very best among the visions that are possible in this universe. The sovereignty of the world, as also all things in the three worlds, exists in consciousness. Then why do people not experience the truth that there is nothing outside of consciousness? He's just so amazed at everything. Why people can't see this? Why are they still running after money and name and fame and women and whatever, all the pleasures of the world? You can read ahead.
Everything, everywhere, and at all times is easily obtained through consciousness, which is omnipresent and undifferentiated. The light that shines in the sun and the moon, the energy that animates the gods, the intrinsic characteristic of the mind and the elements, the qualities and the faculties that exist in nature, like that in space which permits aircraft to move in it, and the infinite variety of manifestations of energy and intelligence are all the expansions and the function of the one cosmic consciousness, which in itself is undivided and unmodified. The infinite consciousness simultaneously pervades the three periods of time and experiences the infinite worlds. The consciousness experiences simultaneously what is sweet and what is bitter. It is tranquil and at peace. Because this consciousness is in itself free from all modifications, concepts and percepts, and because it is subtle and experiences all things at the same time, it is ever at peace and homogeneous, even while apparently experiencing the diversity of diverse phenomena.
This is all very simple. Everything is inside the self. The self runs everything. Yeah, it's just repeated. The light that shines in the sun, the moon, the energy, gods, everything, the mind and its elements, qualities and faculties that exist in nature, as in the gunas, yeah, rajas, tamas, sattva, that exist in nature. Yeah. And infinite variety of manifestations of energy, everything, all the prakriti, all this is nothing but the consciousness. Everything is that one consciousness. It pervades the three periods of time, it experiences the infinite world. And the consciousness experiences simultaneously what is sweet, what is bitter, it is tranquil and at peace. Because this consciousness is itself free from all modifications. Okay, modification. Concept and percept. Percept has come from the word perception. I perceive something. And because of my perception of that particular thing, I develop an idea in the head. This is a percept. The first idea that I develop is a percept. It is born out of perception. Based on this idea, I collect 3, 4, 5 percepts together and form a concept. This is the way it is. Yeah? For example, let's say perception of winter. Yeah. First perception is the snow falls. Yeah. So my first percept is snow falling. Snow falls in winter. One more perception, oh, it's very cold. I need to wear jackets. Yeah. So sense of touch and sense of sight. Two percepts together form a concept in the head. In winter, it is very cold. I have to wear jackets because it snows. Understood difference between percept and concept? Yeah. So all this percept and concept, all these ideas in the mind, everything is consciousness. It is because of the consciousness. And because it is subtle and experiences all things at the same time, it is ever at peace and homogeneous. Homogeneous means nothing can make it impure, nothing can taint it. It is like space. Yeah, how much ever dirt you throw into space, how much ever you light fire here, still space maintains its quality of being homogeneous. Yeah, just like that is what is the self or the consciousness. Even while apparently experiencing the diversity of diverse phenomena. So though there is so much diversity happening within the self, there are humans, there are animals, there are plants, insects. This is diversity happening within the consciousness. Despite this diversity, consciousness is homogeneous. Yeah? Energy is homogeneous. Yeah? For example, the same electricity runs your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, yeah, the bulb, fan, everything. Yeah, all these electronic items are run by just that same energy called electricity. Though it is manifesting in diverse forms, through the fan there is air coming out, but through this computer I can communicate with you, and through the lamp it's giving me light. Same electricity is doing different functions. But has the electricity got distorted in these three things? It's the same, no? Got it? Like that, only the consciousness, despite having all diverse phenomena within itself, is homogeneous. Clear?
When the apparently transformed becoming resorts to or rests on that being which has not undergone any modification, the former is freed from sorrow, and when what is seen by what is not, or by the mind in which there is no movement of thought, that which is abandons its wickedness. When consciousness abandons the perception of the three modes of time, when it is freed from the bondage of objectivity or conceptualization, it rests in utter tranquility. It is as if it were unreal, because it is beyond description. Hence, some people declare that the self does not exist, whether there is the self or Brahman or not. That which is not subject to dissolution is the supreme liberation. On account of the modification thought, this consciousness is apparently veiled and does not realize. I salute the self. Salutations to myself, the undivided consciousness, the jewel of all the seen and the unseen worlds. You have indeed been reached very soon. You have been touched. You have been gained.
Amazing, huh, Prahlad? Okay. This is very beautiful, huh? This sutra. I know it's a little confusing sutra. Very slowly we'll read it. When the apparently transformed. What is apparently transformed? This jiva, Yeah, when it left the pool of consciousness, because of that I, the ego, it is apparently transformed because of Maya. Got it? So when the apparently transformed becoming resorts to or rests on that being which has not undergone any modification. Got it? When this jiva focuses or rests on the Brahman consciousness that has not undergone any modification. Yeah? The former is freed from sorrow, as this jiva is freed from sorrow. Yeah? And when what is seen by what is not. What is not? The mind is not. And what is? The self is what is. Yeah? So when the self is seen by this mind, that which is abandons its wickedness. So the mind abandons its wickedness. Got it? Sounds poetic. Got it, or are you confused? Everybody? When consciousness abandons the perception of the three modes of time, past, present and future, then it is freed from the bondage of the perception, when it is freed from the bondage of objectivity or conceptualization. It rests in utter tranquility. So when will it rest in utter tranquility? Two qualifications. One, abandoning past, present and future. And two, abandoning thought or conceptualization. It's the same thing. Abandoning thought is the same as abandoning conceptualization or abandoning objectivity. What is objectivity? I, you, this, that, objectivity. Yeah? The objects of the senses are what I see, what I taste, what I touch, what I hear, what I smell. Yeah? When I get lost in these, that is objectivity, and that is nothing but a thought. Smell is a thought, taste is a thought. Remember this, words are thoughts. Somebody said good things to me, somebody said bad things to me, thoughts. I touch something, hard, soft, I like it, I don't like it, thought. Anything I see, thought. Do you get it? So the two steps he's given is to drop past, present and future, this division that I see. And the second, drop conceptualization or objectivity or thought, whatever you want to call it. These are the two main steps highlighted here. Then only can utter peace and tranquility be attained, not otherwise. Till the time thought exists, mind exists. Till the time there is mind, how can there be no mind? It's not possible, huh? Peace is equal to no mind. So thought has to drop, yeah, for there to be peace. It is as if it were unreal, because it is beyond description. Hence some people declare that the self does not exist. Buddha did that. Buddha said, yeah, there is no self. Yeah. For years and years and years he practiced, he meditated, he fasted, he starved himself to death. He did all kinds of penances, being in fire, in cold weather, walking miles and miles, meditating for hours together, everything possible, everything that people said in that time to him. Yeah, people were followers of Lord Mahavira. And Mahavira had said fast, do this, do that. He did everything possible, but he could not attain it. Yeah? Then when he dropped everything, that mere dropping, yeah, was that state where all thoughts dropped, conceptualization dropped, everything dropped, and that no mind was reached. Yeah? And he attained peace there. That's when Buddha said, there is nothing like self. Don't go looking for it. Yeah? That is the reason he has said. Because it is beyond description. And people who are stuck in words need a description. It is impossible to explain to these people. Words can never do justice to the self. That is why you have to drop words. Not just from here, but also from here. Completely. Yeah. In that silence you will find the self, not otherwise. Whether there is the self, Brahman, or not, that which is not subject to dissolution is the supreme liberation. On account of the modification means thought in the mind. This consciousness is apparently veiled and is not realized. It's impossible to understand consciousness through the words. So understand, the scripture is again words. You cannot get stuck in words again. You cannot get stuck in Guruji's words. You cannot get stuck in my words. These words are only a direction. I'm just pointing in a direction. Don't just get stuck on my hand. Look into that direction. Try to grasp that formlessness. And it cannot be attained till the time you are ready to drop thoughts, thinking, concepts, objectivity. And Prahlad reached that stage. Yeah, here Prahlad is doing it through self-inquiry. There is no master telling him. It is all through self-inquiry. Within himself he is talking to himself. And he has come to this realization. I salute the self. Salutations to myself. The undivided consciousness. The jewel of all that is seen and unseen worlds. You know what he means by unseen worlds, no? There are other realms of existence which I cannot see with these eyes. Right here, in this room. Right where you are sitting. The subtle realm of existence. You have indeed been reached very soon. You have been touched. You have been gained. So Prahlad's journey is very beautiful. It's a journey that he accomplished by his own self-inquiry. Without a master, without a teacher, without a scripture. That is why this is a very special story. Very different from all the other stories that we read. This is through self-inquiry. And this is the best way. Because finally you have to reach here. A master, a guru or a scripture points in the direction of self-inquiry. You have to start this journey of self-inquiry. Until that time, it hasn't begun yet, So you have to begin. Your homework for the week. You ask yourself all these questions. Who am I? Am I this body still do I get lost in these five senses and start identifying with the objects of these senses? Who am I? What is the point of all this? How did I get out of that pool of consciousness? You do contemplation. You do self-inquiry. Rather than talking to yourself, oh, Sandesh said this, and why did Sandesh do this, and why did Venkat do that? Unnecessary rubbish we talk about in our heads to ourselves. You have to talk to yourself, talk about this. Who am I? You become Prahlada. Homework for next week, page 168, page 169 and page 170. It is all the same, self-inquiry by Prahlada. Pretty simple. If there is something difficult that you come across, you can ask me a question, or we can just revisit it next week. Yeah? Whatever your difficult part is. I know you will find some difficulty where prana and apana come up. I'll explain that part again. Yeah? But read these 3 pages again. Before we go, any questions? All good? I'll see you next week. Jai Gurudev.